What's up, guys? Today in this video, we're going to talk about why I think a lot of people are sleeping on Robinhood chain, and we're going to talk all about it, what it is, and all that. And then we're also going to talk about some of the metrics about behind it. And then I'm also going to give my opinion about why I think this chain could stay around. Because let's be honest, and let me just be transparent with you. There are a lot of chains that come about and people are really hyped about them. And then all of a sudden, they fall off a cliff. Today, I'm going to talk about why I don't think that's going to be necessarily the case for Robinhood chain. So let's get into it. So first of all, Robinhood chain is its own layer 2 blockchain, and it's built using Arbitrum's technology stack, basically. So it's its own layer 2 Ethereum blockchain. And they built it for the main reason of bringing traditional financial assets, like for example, stocks, ETFs, all of that on chain so they could just be traded and transferred and integrated with DeFi more easily. And their vision is that financial markets are going to be moving on chain, and this is going to be more and more popular. And so they want to be at the forefront of this since they are a traditional broker. Fun fact, I have actually been using Robinhood, the broker, since 2016. And right now it has a stock market cap of $101 billion. They make $1 billion year on year for their revenue as well, so highly profitable. What I always liked about Robinhood as well is that they made trading stocks essentially completely free to trade shares or have extremely low fees and bring that to the masses. Also, the simplicity of Robinhood and the UI is what I think brought, especially my generation, Gen Z, onto Robinhood as well, and made it, incredibly popular. So basically, they built it because now, if you want to, for example, buy a stock, you have to have it through the broker. The markets have limited trading hours, and then also the settlement time can also take a lot of time. And it's also very difficult to move, for example, assets between brokers. Like, if you want to move stocks from one broker to another, that's incredibly difficult. Robinhood wants basically 24/7 markets, near instant settlements, all of that, lower costs, and some self-custody as well, it seems. And so the whole point of Robinhood chain is really RWAs. That's the main thing you should be thinking about for Robinhood chain. So think stocks, ETFs, potentially bonds, and just other financial assets as well, potentially in the future. And also you could easily just say, why didn't they just build it on Arbitrum 1, right? Why did they, make their own chain? And really, this is for a few reasons. So first of all, they can set custom transaction fees. That's one. And then two, better performance for its own applications. And then also regulatory controls. And then they could, of course, upgrade the network if needed in the future. And then just having its own dedicated infrastructure instead of sharing the block space with thousands of other unrelated apps is also a big point for it. And it's kind of similar to how Coinbase built Base instead of just simply deploying Coinbase Wallet on like another L2, for example. So here on DeFi Llama, we can see the total value locked, which is $161 million. We can see that it's up just 21%. In the past 24 hours, we can just see that the TVL is it's growing and growing. We can see overall market cap. We can see the chain fees in the past 24 hours. The chain revenue earned $100,000 in 24 hours as well. We can see the various different protocols that are on Robinhood chain as well, making money. And of course, we can sort this. We can look at the different categories. We can see the launch pads, the dexes, all of that right here. One of the other reasons I think Robinhood made Robinhood chain as well is I think it's also because they saw how profitable, for example, Hyperliquid is. If you just look at the revenue in the past 7 days, Hyperliquid, has made $8.22 million. So they've made over $1 million in revenue per day. I believe Hyperliquid as well, there's like some fun fact that they have under like 30 employees as well for Hyperliquid. Actually, I was wrong. Hyperliquid has approximately 11 to 15 employees as well, and they're making $8 million a week. So that's pretty incredible. Now, if you just look at Hyperliquid, the top, let's just rank by the top volume, right? For what is the most traded assets on Hyperliquid. And we can see that the first one is actually a stock, right? It's not even crypto. Bitcoin is 2 right now. Under that, we have, for example, the S&P 500. We have Micron. We have Microsoft. We have also oil. We have Samsung, we have SpaceX, right? So these are in the top 10 to top 20 assets that are traded are actually just stocks right now on Hyperliquid. More people in the crypto space are more hyped about trading stocks right now than they are even at trading crypto. And I think Robinhood saw that and they wanted to build their own fairly similar type of product, which at the end of the day, if there are more competitors to Hyperliquid and to Robinhood chain, that's great for the end user, for us as well. So I'm guessing this is also going to be just overall a good benefit as well for most users. Now, right now, one of the top tokens as well on the project has been CashCat. And this one went up, for example, over 1,000% in just 7 days. So that's also interesting to note. There are a lot of memes that have popped up on the chain as well. Vlad Tenev, the CEO of Robinhood, has mentioned before, saying that the memes are great on Robinhood, which has spiked a lot of people having their own launch pads now and bringing a lot of memes, a lot of trench Solana traders into the Robinhood chain universe, and that's what you're getting. But there are some other RWA assets that are building real things, not just meme coins, as well on Robinhood chain. And also I plan to make a separate video about some of those tokens as well here, coming soon within a few days. So you might be asking, okay, Trevor, at this point, why is Robinhood chain going to stay around and isn't it going to fade out like most other chains? And that's a very valid question. And it's one that I've been asking myself recently. But if we look at some of the reasons as to why Robinhood chain may not fail, I think it's quite intriguing, and here's my argument. So first of all, Robinhood already has millions of funded users, right? These are already people that are on its apps, right, on the brokerage itself, and they already have millions of users onto this. And all Robinhood has to do is just slowly educate all of their current users into the Robinhood chain universe. And if you think about it, a lot of chains have to they come about and then they have to acquire users, and that is extremely difficult to do, whereas Robinhood already has the masses. They already have all the Americans that are using its products, and so they only have to get a few onto Robinhood chain to actually exponentially grow it. There's also been a push for this tokenization from the NASDAQ, and I think a lot of these, brokerages are starting to think about potentially tokenized stocks, especially because they're looking at Hyperliquid and they're seeing the amount of revenue that that Hyperliquid is getting, and they want a taste of it. And if you can buy Apple stock 24/7, if you can just trade it globally, if you can, for example, borrow against it, and if you can transfer it instantly, that's honestly how tokenized equities can just become mainstream. And the other reason, kind of similar to point one, is that Robinhood owns the user experience. So most people don't give a shit about Ethereum. They don't care about Arbitrum. They don't care about rollups, the tech, all the nerd stuff. They don't care. They just care that the app works, it's simple, it's clean, and the settlement is instant, and it's also pretty cheap to basically free. And that's what Robinhood has been since the beginning. And then the other reason, of course, is that they have the regulatory relationships, right? It's listed on the NASDAQ, it's its own stock, right? They have obviously a lot of regulations that they have to go through to make, sure the product is, perfect and good, and that people need to ultimately, trust it at the end of the day. And that's also a very good reason, because they have the regulatory relationships. Now, one may argue that the whole point of the crypto ethos is to not have any type of regulation and all of that. Well, at this point, it seems like the market doesn't really care. And right now, a lot of people like Robinhood chain, and they don't care about the traditional ethos of crypto. So that is why I think Robinhood chain is going to stick around, and it's not just going to disappear like most chains do. And also I'll make a couple of other videos, as well as I made already a tutorial on how to get started on Robinhood chain, how to start trading on Robinhood chain. So if you're interested in that, you can watch my latest video. Also check out my site linked below, discounted.trade. Here you can find all of the best prop firms and exchanges to trade with. If you don't know what a prop firm is, essentially you can buy a evaluation account on with a broker, like for example, Kraken, the exchange, has their own prop firm called Kraken Prop. It's through Kraken, the exchange. And from there, you can buy an account of up to $200,000 in capital, and you can trade with their money once you pass the trading requirements. Then you get a funded account, and you can withdraw the profits off of the trades. And you can use the discount codes, which are linked on the site, and you can use them to redeem at checkout. And you can get a big discount on any of these prop firms that are listed here on the site. So that's all for this one. My name is Trevor, also known as Mintimax. I'll see you guys in the next one.